सियावर रामचंद्र की जय, पवन सुत हनुमान की जय। सीताराम 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 राम 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 सीताराम 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 रघुपति राघव राजा राम पतित पावन 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 सीताराम 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 Ram Lakshman Janaki Jai Bolo Hanuman ki 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 Siyavar Ramachandra ki Jai Pavan Sut Hanuman ki Jai Jai Sri Ram, Jai Hanuman, Hanuman Jayanti ki Jai. Welcome back. It's Hanuman Jayanti. And so this is our Mahabharat Katha, which would normally be Mahabharat Katha, and it will be Mahabharat Katha, but it will also be the Hanuman Jayanti edition. So it's the Hanuman episode of Mahabharat, and I know what you're all thinking. Oh, it's going to be about that time where Bhima met Hanuman in the forest after... No, it's not. It's actually not going to be about that one at all. That one is coming. But where we left off in our Mahabharat Katha was prior to the Pandavas' long exile in the forest. So, as to not give away the spoilers, it's going to be about a different episode where the Mahabharat and Hanuman Katha intersect. This Hanuman Jayanti episode I was kind of thinking about and meditating on for some time. And I felt like it was kind of important because there's so much struggle happening right now. Our beloved India is going through a really, really, really rough time. So it was a little bit difficult for me to think about coming online and having an episode or Mahabharat Katha where I kind of speak like everything is fine. All the blessings are there. You know, just keep praying, you'll be fine. Because there are so many. Hundreds of thousands of people going through so much, and even more, who are feeling helpless, who are struggling, praying for loved ones, praying for family members. So my prayers go out to every single one of you. Having had several people in my life go through this COVID issue, having had several people in my life directly affected by COVID, I wanted to make sure that we were praying with an attitude of love and affection. I do say that there's a time for philosophy and then there's a time for love, and this is the time to just pour out our hearts with prayer. If we are bhaktas, if we are devotees, this isn't a time to say, oh, this material body, everybody's going to die. This is kind of not the time for that. This is not the time for all of our self-realization. This is not the time for all of the ways that we find to spiritually rise above things and say, oh, this material world doesn't matter. It absolutely does matter. Our lives are very dear to us. We spend a lot of time trying to preserve our lives. And as people who are trying to be surrendered to the Supreme Person, Sri Rama, Sri Krishna, as people who are trying to be surrendered souls, Sri Krishna and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has said so many times, this life belongs to me. Your life is mine. So when we think about preserving our lives, it's in the mood of how we would preserve the mercy of the Lord, prasad, how we would preserve the paraphernalia of the Lord. And so I often advise people when they come to me with questions and they say how fallen they think they are or how unintelligent they are. I say, would you speak about Krishna's necklace this way? Would you say Krishna's necklace is ugly and all these things? They say, absolutely not. I say, well, then we can't speak that way about our lives. We have to try and preserve our lives and maintain our hearts and our minds the way we would maintain Krishna's own necklaces, earrings, paraphernalia. So this is a time for prayer. So my prayers go out to every single one of all of us, dealing, praying, struggling, feeling helpless. It's so difficult to, like I said, come online and pretend as though all the prayers are already there. You know, just keep praying. It's easy. The method is simple. The method is not elaborate, right? It's a simple method, but it's not easy. It's difficult, especially in times of distress. I was reading Srimad Bhagavatam earlier today, and Srila Prabhupada was saying that times of distress are very interesting because during those times, devotees can pray to the Lord with very rapt attention. Our attention is totally on our sadhana, on our spiritual practice, on our bhajan, hopefully, because that's all we have. So, on one hand, while I was thinking, how can I go online and speak pastimes like everything is fine? And on the other hand, I was thinking, but what else do we have? What else would I be able to speak about? How else can I deal with any of these situations in life? So this is a Hanuman Jayanti Katha. But it's because, as I've been praying all day today, Hanuman, O best of the Vanaras, Vanara Shresht, O best of the devotees, Bhakta Shiromani, O crest jewel of those who have devotion at heart. You are expert in finding lost things. As our friend, as our benefactor, please help us find hope in these hopeless times. Help us find faith when our faith is shaken. Help us to make our faith strong, just like you are yourself. Bajranga Bali, as strong as the Bajra of Lord Indra, the thunderbolt of Indra, as strong as you are, strengthen our faith. So because it is Hanuman Jayanti, I wanted to do something really special. And I wanted to first read the translation to the Hanuman Chalisa. Usually, we hear the Hanuman Chalisa sung. But it's not so often that we get the translation. So I wanted to read the translation in English for those of us who are not expert in Awadhi Hindi, or even if you are. I feel as though it's really important as a native English speaker that I think about what it is that I'm singing, what it is that I'm meditating on. And Hanuman Chalisa can be sung really quickly, right? You can go through it really fast, or you can even sing it slowly, but it's so important for me to think about what is it that I'm singing? What are these wonderful hymns to glorify Sri Hanuman? So I wanted to read that translation because the prayers work, whether you sing them in Hindi or you speak them in English. They still work. The Hanuman Chalisa begins, after cleansing the mirror of my mind with the pollen-like dust of our holy Guru's lotus feet, I sing the pure, untainted glory of Sri Raghuvar, which bestows the fourfold fruits of life, dharma, artha, kama, and even moksha. I think this verse is very interesting and funny because I was suffering from allergies all day because the pollen count is high. So it's very interesting that at the very beginning, you know what? We'll cleanse the mirror of the mind with the pollen. Fully aware of the deficiency of my intelligence, I concentrate my attention on Pavan Kumar, Sri Hanuman, and humbly ask for strength, intelligence, and true knowledge to relieve me of all blemishes, all causes of pain, and all obstacles. Victory unto you, O Hanuman, O ocean of wisdom, All glories unto you, Kapisha, O fountainhead of power, wisdom, and Shiv Shakti. You illuminate all the three worlds with your glory. You are the divine messenger of Sri Ram, the repository, the reservoir of immeasurable strength, though known only as the son of Pavana, born of Anjani. With limbs as sturdy as the Vajra, the thunderbolt, the mace of Lord Indra, you are valiant and brave. On you attends all good sense and wisdom. You dispel the darkness of evil thoughts. So we can think about this time. It's such a depressing time, right? We can all feel so depressed at heart, but just the recitation, just meditating on this Hanuman Chalisa can drive away the darkness of all of those evil thoughts, the darkness of all of those hopeless thoughts. Your physique is beautiful. You are golden colored, and your dress is beautiful. You wear earrings, and you have long curly hair. You carry in your hand a lightning bolt along with victory, and a victory flag, and you wear the sacred Brahman thread on your shoulder. As a descendant and expansion of Lord Shankar, you are a comfort and pride of Sri Keshari, your father. With the luster of your vast sway, you are extolled all over the universe, and you are worshipped and praised. You are the repository, the reservoir of learning, virtuous and fully accomplished. You are always keen to carry out the behest and the order of Sri Ram. You are an ardent listener, always so keen to listen to the narration of Sri Ram's life stories. Your heart is filled with what Sri Ram stood for. You therefore always dwell in the hearts of Sri Ram, Lakshman, and Sita. You appeared before Sita in a very small form and spoke to her in humility. You assumed an amazingly gigantic form and struck terror in the hearts of all by setting Lanka on fire. With overwhelming might, you destroyed the Asuras, the demons, and performed all tasks assigned to you by Sri Ram with great skill. You brought the Sanjeevani herb and restored Lakshman back to life. Sri Raghuvir, Sri Ram cheerfully embraced you with his heart full of joy. Sri Raghupati, the lord of the Raghu dynasty, he wonderfully extolled your excellence and praised you and said, "You are as dear to me as my own brother Bharat." Thousands of living beings are chanting the hymns of your glories, saying thus, "Sri Ram warmly hugged you, O Hanuman." When prophets like Sanaka, even the sage like Lord Brahma, the great hermit Narada himself, Goddess Saraswati, and Dahisha, one of immeasurable dimensions, even Yamaraj, the god of death, Kuvera, the god of wealth, and the Digpalas, the guardians of all the directions, they have all been vying with one another to offer homage to your glories. How then can a mere poet give adequate expression of your super excellence? You rendered a great service to Sugriv. You united him with Sri Ram and installed him on the royal throne. By heeding your advice, Vibhishan became Lord of Lanka. This is known all over the universe. On your own, you dashed toward the sun, which is at a fabulous distance of thousands of miles, thinking it to be a sweet, luscious fruit. Carrying Lord Ram's signet ring in your mouth, there is hardly any wonder that you can easily leap across the ocean. The burden of all difficult tasks of the world becomes light just by your kind grace. You are the guardian at the door of Sri Ram's divine abode. No one can enter it without your supreme permission. All comforts of the world lie at your feet. The devotees enjoy all divine pleasures and feel fearless under your glorious, benign protection. You alone are benefited to carry out your own splendid valor. All the three worlds tremor at your thunderous call. All ghosts, demons, and evil forces keep away with the sheer mention of your great name, O Mahavir, O Bajrangabali. All diseases, pain, and suffering disappear on reciting regularly the name of Sri Hanuman. Those who remember Sri Hanuman in thought, words, and deed with sincerity and faith are rescued from all crises in life. So you can see why I wanted to read this today, and why I wanted to take the time to really call out to Hanuman, so that we can meditate not just on the beautiful syllables, but also the meaning. Because, like I said, it works. This narration enters into the core of the heart and frees the mind from all distress, if we allow it. All glories and worship to those who have faith in Sri Rama as the Supreme Lord and the King of Penance. You make all their difficult tasks very easy. Whoever comes to you for fulfillment of any desire with faith and sincerity will alone be secured the imperishable fruit of human life. All through the 4 ages, your magnificent glory is acclaimed far and wide. Your fame is radiantly acclaimed all over the cosmos. You are the Savior and the guardian angel of all saints and sages, and you destroy all demons. You are the darling of Sri Ram. You can grant to anyone any yogic power of the 8 siddhis and 9 nidhis: riches, comfort, power, prestige, fame, sweet relationship, etc. This boon has been conferred upon you by Janaki Mata. You possess the power of devotion to Sri Ram. In all births, you will always remain Sri Raghupati's most dedicated disciple. Through hymns sung in devotion to you, one can find Sri Ram and become free from sufferings of all births. If at the time of death one enters the divine abode of Sri Ram, thereafter in all future births he is born as the Lord's devotee. One need not entertain any other deity for worship, as devotion of Sri Hanuman alone can give all happiness. One is freed from all sufferings and ill-fated contingencies of rebirths in this world. One who adores and remembers Sri Hanuman. Jai, 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 Hanuman, O Lord of the senses, O Master of the senses, O Gosai. Let victory over the evil be firm and final. Please bless me in the capacity as my supreme Guru. Jai, 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 Hanuman, Gosai, Kripa Karo, Gurudeva Kinai. One who recites Hanuman Chalisa 100 times becomes freed from the bondage of life and death and enjoys the highest bliss at last. All those who recite this Hanuman Chalisa regularly are sure to be benedicted and blessed. Such is the evidence of no less a witness of Bhagavan Shankar. Tulsidas, as a bound servant of the Divine Master, stays perpetually at his feet and prays, O Lord, you please stay within the shrine of my heart and soul. O conqueror of the wind, destroyer of all miseries, you are the absolute symbol of auspiciousness. Along with Sri Ram, Lakshman, and Sita, reside in my heart, O Lord of Lords. Sri Hanuman ki Jai. Sri Raghupati Sri Ram ki Jai. So this was the translation of the Hanuman Chalisa, which, like I said, I feel is so important, because how often do we think about what is being sung, especially when it goes so quickly? Those 40 verses can go so quickly. People chant them. They can chant them expertly so quickly, but how often do we meditate on what's actually being sung, on the glories of Hanuman as they're actually being sung? So thank you for bearing with me through that recitation of the English version of the Hanuman Chalisa. So now we come to the main event of the evening. This Hanuman Katha, where it intersects with the Mahabharat, is going to come from a very special text called the Sri Brihad Bhagavatamrita. In this wonderful, wonderful narration of the nectar of the Bhagavatam, Narada Muni is on a search. And after we finish the Mahabharat, we'll be delving into the Sri Brihad Bhagavatamrita. So stay tuned. But this will be a little bit of a sneak peek. So Narada Muni is on a quest to find the person who is the greatest recipient of Sri Krishna's mercy. Right? Who is the greatest devotee? He sees a Brahmin worshipping a Shalagram Shila during the month of Magh, right? In the Shashvamedha Kshetra. And he sees that this person, this Brahman, has wonderfully worshipped his Shalagram Shila, which is none other than Lord Vishnu himself. And he sees that he is engaged in feeding all kinds of devotees that prasad. So Narada Muni goes to this Brahman and he says, you must be the greatest recipient of the Lord's sweet mercy. This Brahman says, I'm nothing. If you think I've created a festival here today, you should see the king of the southern province. Just go see him. He has festivals every day. In fact, he's built such magnificent temples that the devotees in those temples no longer look at the deities within those temples as stationary. They see that those deities are always moving and always having pastimes with them. That's how wonderful the festivals are there. That's how wonderful is the devotion of the king of the southern province. Go there, O Naradaji. Narada goes there and he meets with the king of the southern province. And he says, you must be the greatest devotee. The king says, I'm just one king. But Indradev is the king of the heavens. I have small temples here with festivals every day, but Indradev has festivals where the Lord himself attends as Vamandev. In fact, that's his younger brother. The Supreme Personality of Godhead as Lord Vamandev has appeared as the younger brother, Upendra. He's known as the follower of Indra. What can be said for me? Go to see Indra. So, Narada Muni goes to Indra. And he says, oh Indra, I see. When I arrived, Lord Vamanadev was just here and then he left and he accepted your worship. Who could be a better devotee than you? Indra says, please don't make fun of me like this. This is ridiculous. Don't say these things. I have committed so many offenses at the lotus feet of the Lord. And as such, I lost all of my wealth due to my own ego and my pride. I had to pray and fight to get it back from the king of the demons, Bali. And when I went to Lord Vishnu for help, he did take the form of Vamana, but he begged charity from my enemy. And then he went to live with my enemy. When Vamanadev leaves here, he goes with Bali Maharaj. I don't even get to see him constantly. I am the ruler of this heavenly kingdom, but your own father, Lord Brahma, is the creator of all the worlds, the grandfather of the universe, ruler of everything. You should go and see him. Narada Muni goes to see Lord Brahma. And he says, oh father, you must be the greatest recipient of Sri Krishna's mercy. Look on your planet of Brahmaloka. You have your very own Yageshwar, your Yagya avatar, the Lord of all sacrifices. You have your very own Vishnu. All he does is accept your offerings. Brahma says, oh Narada, from the time you were young, I've been telling you don't speak like this. How can you say such a thing? Are you trying to make fun of me? Are you trying to simply fill me up with some false praise? What are you saying? I myself committed offenses at the lotus feet of the Lord. I myself have to beg him to appear on the earth whenever there is a problem. I am constantly repenting for the offenses that I've committed. What offense, you might ask, has Lord Brahma committed at the lotus feet of the Lord? Well, Lord Brahma himself says, I am the cause of the demoniac troubles in the earth. Hiranyakashipu wanted to gain all kinds of benedictions and rule over the earth and cause problems to Vaishnavas. Who gave him the power to do so? Who gave him his boons? I did. And when the Lord appeared as Lord Nrsingadev, ferocious, heroic, auspicious, terrific, but terrible, so angry at all of the difficulties caused to his dear devotee Prahlad, who did he look at angrily first? Me. And he growled at me and said, do not give such benedictions in the future, O lotus-born one. Reminding me of my position, that I was born from the lotus that grew from Lord Vishnu's own navel, and still I committed such atrocious acts. But did I learn my lesson? No. Still, when Ravan came, who did he ask for benedictions from? Me. Did I heed the words of Lord Vishnu and tell him no? No. I gave him his benedictions. May you have unlimited strength. May you gain victory over demigods and demons alike. It is only lucky for me that he seemed to leave out men and beasts. But that was luck. That was not me. How can you say that I am the greatest recipient of the Lord's mercy? I've caused such problems for him. Please reconsider what you're saying, Narada. But I know someone who is a greater recipient of the Lord's mercy. Go see Shankar Mahadev. Go see Lord Shiva. He is the greatest recipient. Naraji goes to Kailash. And there on Kailash, he sees Lord Shiva engaged in one of his most favorite activities, Kirtan. Lord Shiva is dancing and singing the glories of Lord Sri Krishna, singing this Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, which includes his most favorite divine name, Sri Rama. And Parvati Devi is there engaged clapping. It says she claps very expertly. All of the Shiva Ganas are also engaged in playing various instruments for the pleasure of Lord Shiva. And he's happily dancing, twirling, jumping high in the sky. Narada Muni appears there, and he's also drawn in by the wonderful kirtan of Mahadev Shankar. And he begins to sing, and finally he says, "Oh Lord Shiva, you are the greatest recipient of the Lord's mercy. You are the greatest devotee." And Lord Shiva becomes very much aggrieved. He catches Narada, covers his mouth with both his hands. Says, "What are you saying? Why would you say this? If you were really my friend, why would you speak to me like this? Are you trying to cause harm to me?" Covers his ears with both hands. "Stop! How can it be said that I am a great devotee? I am the lord of the demons. I am always merciful to the demoniac forces. Whenever anybody needs any help, they need shelter, they need assistance, they come to me. In fact, it is said that I can give mukti, moksha, liberation. But the true bhaktas don't even want it. They want devotion. And so now I'm constantly running after them for devotion. I just want bhakti. I always want to be engaged in the assembly of devotees, and I have to run after them. How could I be the greatest recipient of the Lord's mercy. I give power to demons so that they can fight with Lord Vishnu, my own worshipful Lord. In fact, I myself, because of one of my wayward devotees, I was brought into battle against Sri Krishna himself, and I had to fight with him. How? How can you say that I am a devotee? I fought my Lord. I hurled weapons at him. My own trident I hurled at him. I cast mountains at him. I cast my very own weapon, the Shiva Jwara, against him. How can I be a devotee after having fought my own Lord, Sri Krishna, on a battlefield? It was only the Lord's kindness that he said, "Don't worry, Mahadev. This was all part of the divine plan. It is only my good fortune that he took it in such good spirits that he said, even this has pleased me. This is my good fortune and his mercy alone. But in no way can I be said to have been a great devotee. I simply run after those great devotees, yearning for their association, yearning for their mercy, thinking that if those great bhaktas give me a fraction of the wealth of devotion, then I too can somehow gain the favor of my Supreme Lord. Naraji, how can you say this? But Lord Shiva says, I know someone that you can go to. And this is where we will begin our reading. Because these verses, as they are written in the Sri Brihad Bhagavatamrita, are so incredibly sweet. So Lord Shiva says, if you go to Prahlad Maharaj, then you'll be able to see a real devotee. The Lord has saved me many times, but the Lord took a form never before seen, before or since, just to save Prahlad, as a little boy. At 5, he had more devotion than I have in millions of years. Go see Prahlad. Narada goes to see Prahlad Maharaj. Naraji is the Gurudev of Prahlad Maharaj. So when he arrives on the scene, Prahlad is so happy to see his Guru. Oh, Guru Maharaj, please come. Naraji says, oh, Prahlad, you are the greatest recipient of the Lord's mercy. Who can extol your glories and your good fortune? And Prahlad Maharaj can't get angry with his Guru Maharaj. And so he becomes very sad. He says, oh, my dear Guru Maharaj, what can I say about my misfortune? All I did was just remember the Lord in some time of distress. How can that be seen as something very great? Sanatan Goswami, who wrote this Brihad Bhagavatamrita, says that Prahlad Maharaj says this in great humility. All I did was think about the Lord in some time of distress, but this winds up being the greatest service, the greatest devotion throughout the ages. He becomes an example of devotion. For what he says is, I just remembered the Lord sometime in some distress. Can't we all do the same? Isn't this a time of great distress? So I encourage us all. We can follow in the footsteps of Prahlad Maharaj. We cannot imitate, because it's impossible. Thinking of all that he went through, drinking, eating poison, being thrown off a cliff, being thrown in front of a stampeding elephant. Right? We can follow in the footsteps, though. And we can remember the Lord in times of distress, like right now. And this becomes the greatest devotional service. So dependence on the Lord, asking him to save us, is not an opposition to our devotional service. Sometimes we think, oh, the pure devotees never ask for anything. But Prahlad Maharaj did remember Krishna. He did remember Krishna in times of distress. Kunti Devi did pray for the protection of the Lord. Oh, my Govinda, please save me and my sons. So it is not an opposition. It's not against our devotional service to pray for protection. In fact, this becomes the example of devotion. All of Sri Krishna's friends, the Gopas within Sri Vrindavan Dham, whenever they found themselves in any difficulty, they said, "Oh Krishna, Krishna, oh mighty armed one, Mahabhago, Mahabaho, oh most fortunate Sri Krishna. Please, please save us. We are your very own people. So you cannot let us fail. You cannot let us die. You have to protect us. We are your very own servants." So I pray that our Govinda Dev, our Supreme Lord, the Lord who is known as Bhakta Vatsala, dearest to his devotees, the benefactor and well-wisher of all of his devotees, I pray that he protects you all, whatever that means. I pray that he gives his miracles and his mercy, and all in all, I pray that he shelters your hearts with his wonderful blessings. We understand that these bodies are not forever. We can understand it intellectually. Still, the feeling is there. So no matter what, whether he is able to preserve this body or whether he sees fit to bring you back into his own embrace, I pray that he protects your heart so that no matter what happens, we are able to deal with all of the trials and tribulations. We are able to deal with whatever his decision is. I cannot say what the outcome is. And sometimes the mercy of the Lord is shown when he says, "No, there is no more suffering for you in this place. Now you come back, you stay with me." Externally, we look at those losses and we think, how horrible. But maybe that's the Lord's greatest blessing. Saying, now you come with me. I can't say what the Lord's plan is. I don't know what that ultimate mercy looks like. But I do pray that no matter what we are going through, and no matter what distresses we find ourselves in, our Lord always protects our hearts so that we can see him in all circumstances, so that we can see his grace and his mercy in every single circumstance, and so that we don't lose hope, so we don't lose faith. So when Prahlad Maharaj says, all I did was just remember him a little in times of distress, this is for us. This is for us. We can do this. We should do this. We must do this. We must remember our friend in times of distress. So Prahlad says, Lord Nrsingadev appeared before me, but then he left after a little while, and I was not able to see him again. I haven't been able to see my Lord directly whenever I wanted. So I saw him once on the shore of an ocean as Lord Pitavas. He appeared to me once more, but it was just like seeing a dream. Sometimes we think, and we can all experience this in quarantine and lockdown, sometimes we think we haven't been able to see the Lord to our heart's content. We haven't been able to go to the temple to our heart's content. Then if we just see him one time, we think, but it wasn't enough. I need more. My heart needs more. It felt just like a dream. It was so short. So Prahlad Maharaj is saying the same. Prahlad Maharaj says, but I know one person who is even more fortunate than I am. Such a greater devotee than I am. Go see Hanuman. Hanuman is much more fortunate. For many thousands of years, he has enjoyed seeing the Lord constantly, without obstruction. And as we know, Hanuman will go wherever and whenever there is Ram Katha spoken. He is the most powerful person, Prahlad says. When he was just a child, the demigods favored him with several wonderful benedictions. Thus he became immune to old age and death. He is free of all fear. He maintains great vows, and he performs auspicious deeds. Outstanding among heroes, he is an exceptional servant of Lord Raghupati. With playful disregard, he jumped across thousands of miles of fathomless ocean. Expertly in the capital of the Rakshasa king, he comforted Mother Sita in her distress. So as Hanuman was able to comfort Sita Devi in her time of distress, I pray that he comforts us all in our time of distress. He was able to bring back her very own life and her faith and her hope just by singing the glories of Sri Ram. And so I hope and I pray that with the glories of Sri Ram, he is also able to bring back our hope and our faith in such difficult times. Prahlad Maharaj continues, he boldly threatened his enemies. He burned Lanka and destroyed its city. When he brought back news of Sita, he received the gift of his master's deep embrace. It was Hanuman who acted as his lord's carrier, his tail serving as a royal white umbrella. His broad back was a comfortable seat for the Lord, and it was Hanuman who directed the project of bridging the ocean. So we know Sri Ram rides on Hanuman. Prahlad Maharaj is saying, this is good fortune. This is the Lord's mercy, O Narada. If you want to see mercy, you have it here. He fulfilled the desires of Bibhishan. He destroyed the military force of the Rakshasas. And he had the special power to deliver the healing herb called Vishalya Karani. Supremely intelligent and valorous, he brought victory for Lord Ramachandra. He added to the spotless fame of his Lord, who killed the king of the Rakshasas. He was the very life of his soldiers, always giving great pleasure to the divine Lord and the Lord's younger brother Lakshman. He devotedly served as carrier for them both. It was Hanuman who encouraged Mother Sita, and by the Lord's order, this Hanuman, the one true recipient of his master's favor, still lives in this world, although unable to bear separation from the Lord. He keeps himself alive by constantly hearing the glories of Ram Katha. Staying by the side of the Lord's deity, he is present even today with the same splendor as he has always had. My dear spiritual master, Hanuman's greatness is well known from scriptural statements, like the chief of the monkeys became perfect by acting as the Lord's servant. His servitude is proof of the Lord's very own mercy. Prahlad Maharaj continues, although Hanuman obtained from the son of Dasharath the boon of liberation without even striving for it, he never wanted to accept liberation without the opportunity to serve. So he did not want to merge into any oneness. Hanuman says, no mukti, no merging. Let me always serve. Let me always have the identity, janam janam, life after life, of being the servant of Sri Ram. In my own identity, let me just be known as a servant, someone who can do something, who can perform some action for my Lord. To that Hanuman, I offer my obeisances. You certainly know glories of his that I haven't even mentioned. Why not go to Kimpurusha Varsh? See him yourself and be enlivened, O Naradaji. Narada then jumped up from his seat and flew through the sky to Kimpurusha Varsh, all the while repeating, how wonderful, how wonderful. Aho, aho. There in Kimpurusha, Narada saw Hanuman absorbed in worshipping Lord Ramachandra's lotus feet with varied items from the forest, as if serving the Lord personally as before. listening to the nectarian Ramayan recited by Gandharvas and other celestial singers, Hanuman was in ecstasy. He has his own like Gandharva Spotify. Just gets to listen to it. His limbs trembled. Tears poured from his eyes, and the hair on his body stood on end. He glorified the Lord with various prayers in prose and verse, most excellent compositions of his own poetry. Just imagine the poetry of Hanuman. He also recited prayers composed by others, and he repeatedly offered prostrate obeisances. Narada cried out in joy, "Glories to you, Sri Raghunath, the beloved of Sri Janaki. All glories to the elder brother of Sri Lakshman." Delighted to hear glorified the names of the Lord he worshipped, Hanuman jumped from where he stood and caught hold of Narada by the neck. Standing in the sky, Narada was overjoyed. With his feet he danced, and with his hands he wiped away the flood of loving tears from his eyes of the Lord of the monkeys. Sharing Hanuman's unique mood of loving ecstasy, Narada spoke in a loud voice. Sri Narada said, "O blessed one! Truly you are the dearest devotee of the Supreme Lord. Today, just by seeing you, I too have become dear to the Lord." In the blink of an eye, Hanuman became sober and bowed down to show respect to the sage among the demigods. Hanuman greeted him with reverence and brought him to the temple of Lord Ramachandra, the hero of the Raghus, so that Narada could also offer obeisances. Narada paid respects to the Lord in Hanuman's temple, and Hanuman carefully arranged for Narada to be seated. So before he tells him, "I am not the greatest," he's going to worship him nicely. Narada felt he had now obtained an amazing treasure born from pure love for the Lord. He picked up his veena and he spoke. Narada said, "Yes, you are the greatest recipient of the mercy of the Supreme Lord. No one can compare to you. You are always immersed in an ocean of ecstatic worship of the Lord, enjoying it as newer and newer at every moment." How often can we say, we've heard stories, but we experience them newer and newer each time? This is the boon that we can pray for, that every time we hear pastimes, every time we hear these glories of our Supreme Most Lord, they feel new, that they hit differently, that with each day, every time we go through anything and everything, we can remember the pastimes of the Supreme Lord newer and newer and newer. You are the Lord's servant, his friend, his carrier, his seat, his flag, his umbrella, his canopy, and his fan. You are his bard, his advisor, his doctor, his general, his best helper, the expander of his infinite glories. Having surrendered yourself entirely to the Lord, having received his highest mercy, having dedicated your life to topics of his transcendental glories, you always increase the bliss of the devotees sheltered by him. You are the best of saints, greater even than others like Garuda. Indeed, your devotion for the Lord is absolutely pure, for you consider nothing more valuable than the pleasure of serving him. You delighted all his devotees by speaking to that best of generous lords these words: "Even though liberation destroys the bondage of material existence, I have no desire for liberation in which I would forget that you are the master and I am the servant." So sometimes people want liberation to somehow become God, become one with God. Hanuman says, "I don't want a liberation that would make me forget my position as your servant. I always just want to remember that you are my master. I am your servant." So my Guru Maharaj often says that we can become one with God in love and in devotion, always remembering that I am part and parcel of my supreme friend, and that I always just want to do something for him, in gratitude of his grace. Hanuman was now burning in a fire of separation from his master, the Supreme Lord, and the fuel of hearing about the special mercy of the Lord's lotus feet had brought that fire to a blaze. For a while he cried sorrowfully, and then, calmed by the sage, he spoke. Sri Hanuman said, which I think it's really wonderful that we're going to hear the recommendation of Hanuman on Hanuman Jayanti. Sri Hanuman said, O best of sages, why are you doing this to such a wretch, devoid of the lotus feet of Sriman Ramachandra? Why do you make me cry by reminding me of how the Lord has neglected me? If I am really the Lord's servant, then why did he forcibly abandon me when he took with him to his spiritual kingdom his dear devotees, including Sugriva and all the residents of Koshala? You are very kind to me. Because I have had the good fortune to engage in his service, you conclude that the Lord has given me his favor. But now he has descended to Mathurapuri, where he displays the summit of his opulences and powers. All the mercy he has shown me cannot equal even a speck of the mercy he has shown to the saintly Pandavas, any more than a molecule of earth can equal Mount Sumeru. So who does Hanuman consider a greater devotee than him? The Pandavas. Hence our Mahabharat Katha. See? I brought it back. Hanuman continues with his recommendation of who is a greater devotee than he is. Now he says, the Pandavas are better than me. My Lord Ramachandra has descended in Mathura. Now he looks a little different. But still, he's giving mercy that even I have never seen. Right? What is the mercy that Sri Krishna gives? When he's young, all of the monkeys, they would play with each other. Right? Sri Ramachandra would see all of those monkeys, they're engaging with jumping on one another. They feed one another. They take food from each other's mouths. They say, oh, this is meant for you. No, I'll eat it. They share food with one another. But when they come to me, they address me as, O Lord, O Nath. And they keep themselves at a distance. Even when I hugged Hanuman, Hanuman simply took that embrace as mercy. But he did not think of me as a friend. Sri Ram thinks, I want to rectify this. And when he takes his form, his original form, as Sri Krishna, the source of all avatars, Sri Krishna plays with his friends as though they were monkeys rolling around in the dust of Vrindavan. They jump on one another. They wrestle with one another. They take food from each other's mouths. They play pranks on one another. They hug each other. And they gaze upon one another and do not ever want to be separated from one another. No longer is Krishna just addressed as Hey Nath, but now he is Sakha, my friend. Oh, my dearest friend, come, let me put my arm around you. Nobody acts like this with Sri Ram. He is Maryada Purushottam, the Lord of all propriety. Everything is kept at a distance, within the limits, within the dignity of the sanctity of a king. No one is friendly with Sri Ram. Everyone is friendly with Krishna, though. So this is Krishna's great greed. This is Krishna's great desire to see that loving relationship shared between the monkeys, now also shared with him. His desire is that his servants, his devotees, forget that majesty in loving devotion to him. That they forget, oh, Krishna is my master and Lord of the universe, Lord of lords. Now they know Krishna is my master and the Lord of my life, but he is my friend, and that's all. He happens to have amazingly mystical powers and he can do anything, but that's because he's my friend. And I will pray to him because he's my friend and I have no one else other than my friend. But he yearns for the time when his devotees forget in friendship, in love. They forget everything else and they just think, my friend is all there is. The love of my life is all there is. The Lord of my heart is all there is. Let us hear what else Hanuman has to say about the Pandavas. By sending poison and many other calamities, one after another, to trouble the Pandavas from their childhood, the Lord deliberately showed their determination, religion, fame, wisdom, devotion, and ecstatic love. So here Hanuman is saying something very mysterious. Sometimes we hear when obstacles come upon us, people say, you should see this as the Lord's mercy. And we think, say what? Say what now? How can all of these troubles be mercy? What is this? Hanuman is saying that the Pandavas were put into difficulties, we've heard, right? They poisoned, in a fire, trouble after trouble after trouble from their very childhood. Hanuman is saying this was not just the effect of the Kauravas. This was not just the Kauravas doing this, but this is the Supreme Lord's deliberate Leela, his pastime. Say what now, Hanuman? What are you saying? How is this mercy? He says, but throughout every single one of those calamities, not only did the Lord save his devotees, the Pandavas, but he showed everyone else through time immemorial that they never gave up hope. He gave everyone a blueprint for what to do in times of distress. So what did the Pandavas do? They prayed immediately. Save us, save us, save us, save us, oh Krishna, oh our friend, save us, advise us. So he says, through all these troubles, the Lord deliberately showed their determination. They never gave up. They never said, oh Krishna, I forsake you. Oh Krishna, I don't want to believe in you anymore because you've given me so many troubles. They never gave up. They said, Krishna is my friend. He must have a plan. He must come and save us. And Krishna did. Krishna saved them. So we have to follow that determination. Please never give up. Don't lose faith in Krishna. That's all we have. He showed their determination, their religion. What does Krishna tell Arjuna? Just abandon all varieties of religion. What was their religion? Their religion was surrender and love. Over and above all of the rituals, over and above all of the verses, over and above all of the shlokas, their religion was surrender and love for Krishna. When they had nothing, when they had no wealth to perform any worship, any puja, anything, they surrendered and they loved Krishna. When Draupadi was in the most impure state, dragged in front of the host of Kauravas, she had no facility to perform any puja elaborately, but her religion was surrender and love, and Krishna personally appeared to save her. Krishna personally appeared time and time again to save the Pandavas. So, Hanuman says he showed their religion, their fame. And Krishna says, I must save the Pandavas. I must. Because I don't want other devotees to think that I will not save my devotees. He says, I have to set a standard so that throughout history, people will know when they are praying to me, I will give them protection. I must give them protection. I will be known as Bhakta Vatsala. Over and above all vows, I'll break whatever other vows I've made, as long as I can be known as Bhakta Vatsala, the caretaker, the caregiver for my devotees. I will uphold that promise first. So let us pray to this Bhakta Vatsala to give us determination, to fortify our hearts during this most difficult time. Sometimes, in the story of Sri Rama, Sri Rama is advised, no one can understand the problems of someone else. It's a very short sentence, which means you don't understand something until it becomes personal. Right? We've seen so many times that there are cancer funds and research funds set up. But until a celebrity has a family member with cancer, then it becomes personal. Then they set up their own cancer trust fund, right? They want to set up a fund and a charity to raise money for cancer. There were so many people who were suffering from this COVID for the entire year. When it becomes personal, when it's our family member, when it's someone we know, then all of a sudden it's very serious, isn't it? So Sri Ram is advised, no one can understand the sorrows of another. That very short one sentence means that until it becomes personal, it doesn't hit home. Nobody's willing to take up the cause until and unless it becomes very personal. So Sri Ram is advised to go and find Sugriva when he's looking for Sita. He says, because Sugriva can understand what it is to lose a kingdom and a wife. He's lost both. So the Lord wants everybody to know, I'm not callous. I understand. Because I've saved my devotees before. So when it becomes real, right? When we're looking at the lives of the Pandavas, and there's poison, and there's illness, and there's all these things, then when we are going through similar things, these pastimes are there as a reminder, as a beacon of hope. Please let us remember these pastimes. Please let us not think they are just words on a page. They are just stories within history. These are histories that should be rising from our hearts when these times come. They're there for a reason. Krishna is there showing us, look, you're not alone. Look, someone has gone through something similar. Look, I saved them. Sometimes the ways look mysterious, but I'm saving them. So apply that same formula to your life. It's like mathematics, right? You have a formula. You should be able to apply it across the board. Otherwise, it can't be a formula. Krishna's formula is, you let go, you surrender unto me, I give you all protection. That's the formula. Sometimes our mathematical variations look different, right? Our inputs, our X and our Y, all the variables seem like, oh, but what happens if it seems like somebody's trying to poison me? It says, look, my devotees have been poisoned. I saved them. But what about if I've been in a fire? Look, my devotees were in a fire. I saved them. What about if the government is coming to give me some trouble? Look, my devotees have been troubled by the government. I saved them. If you surrender, trust me. Keep trusting. Keep determined. Keep your heart fortified. Keep praying. Even with the tears, even with the anger, even with the grief and the sorrow, keep praying. If you feel angry, tell Krishna about it. Even if you are angry with him. Keep telling him about it, because I promise he's listening. I promise. He never stops listening. And he never stops giving his mercy. So if you are feeling grief, tell Krishna. If you are feeling sorrow, tell him. This is the wonder of Krishna. Sri Ram, they would keep him at a distance. They might not tell him everything. Because Sri Ram is Lord of Lords. No, let me just serve my Lord. Let me not think about myself. But Sri Krishna says, I want my devotees to lose themselves in devotion. To lose that idea that I am far removed and over and above all everything else. I want them to lose the idea that there is anything that they cannot tell me. They should tell me everything. They should be my friends. They should be my dearest hearts. So this is what Krishna wants. He wants you to address him in all circumstances. Tell him everything. So if you are feeling despair, tell Krishna. If you're feeling depressed, tell him. If you are feeling like, I am so angry because I can't understand your plans, tell him. Express it all. And then wake up the next day and say, but oh my Lord, I am angry and I am in ignorance and I don't understand what your plan is, but I'm going to try and love you anyway. Because Krishna has done that for us. He's tried to love us anyway. So through these pastimes, Hanuman is saying, Krishna sent all of these things. Because we hear, not a blade of grass moves without the sanction of Sri Krishna. So we think, my goodness, all of these horrible things, earthquakes and plagues and epidemics and pandemics and all, how can we say that Krishna is okay with all this? He's sanctioning this? But what if? What if the earth needs purging from all of the offenses that have been committed? And Sri Krishna has to make a way for that. Because Mother Earth is also his devotee. What if Krishna, through all of these hundreds of thousands of millions of cases of sickness, what if he's showing the determination of his devotees? What if, while temples are closing, he's showing, watch how my devotees take me into their heart. Watch how they find a new way to speak to one another. Watch how they find another way to care for one another. Because whereas we all were separated, doing our own thing, now everybody's in the same boat. Everybody knows now what that feels like to suffer. That kind of grief, that loss of family, friends, etc. What if he's saying, now watch how my devotees become soft-hearted with one another. Watch how they jump in to show love for one another through prayer, through constant remembrance of me. You watch how my devotees remember me now. What if that's the saving grace? So, I get it. It's so difficult to see. Not a blade of grass moves without the sanction of the Lord, but so much is so horrible. But maybe, on the advice of the words of Hanuman, by sending many other calamities one after another to trouble those devotees, the Lord is deliberately showing the determination, the religion, the fame, the wisdom, devotion, and ecstatic love of his devotees. Can we rise to the challenge and continue to remember the Lord no matter what? I hope and I pray that we don't lose faith, that we don't lose hope, and that we stay determined, so that our Lord can say, yes, that's my devotee. I know external things are happening. No one is free from miseries, not even Sri Rama. He had to undergo trials and tribulations. He said, I know this place, this material world is full of miseries, but look, that's my devotee. They never give up remembering me, even when they're angry with me. Because they can't understand. And he knows how difficult it is to understand. Draupadi said tearfully, crying in front of Krishna, it's so difficult to understand you. There's so much that I've had to go through and I don't understand it. Krishna replied to Draupadi, O Draupadi, please know that I will always be there to avenge you. I will uphold your honor. I will protect you personally. All of these tears that you are shedding now, that every single one of them is being counted and acknowledged by me. So Krishna is not immune to your suffering. He's not blind to it. He's looking and counting every prayer, every tear. He's hearing you. Hanuman continues. The Lord is so amazing that my Lord, he's acting as their servant, their advisor, their messenger, their charioteer, and their court attendant. So all of the things that Hanuman has done for Sri Rama, he's now saying, my very own Lord is now doing all of this for the Pandavas. Who can estimate or even imagine the good fortune of the Pandavas? He kept watch for them at night and followed them on processions, and he even offered them prayers and obeisances. We spoke about this. He offers obeisances to Kunti and Yudhishthir and Bhima as his elders. Sri Hanuman is saying, this is unfathomable. The Lord that I offer all of my obeisances to is now offering obeisances to his devotees. He becomes a servant of his devotees, their messenger. I am Ramaduta, right? Ramaduta Vikrama Bhajarangi. I am Ramdut. I am Ram's messenger, but now Krishna is the messenger of his devotees. He says, give me your message. I will take it to the Kauravas myself. I will become a peace envoy, an ambassador of the kingdom of Maharaj Yudhishthira. Hanuman says, this is astounding. This is unimaginable. This is amazing. Out of his affectionate concern for them, what would the Lord not do? He was seen taking the combined roles of their servant, companion, and dearmost friend, and they took the same roles for him. Because the Lord resides constantly with the Pandavas, their capital city has become like a sacred forest, where great sages perform austerities, and residing in that city awards one the same pious benefits as performing austere acts of penance. Upon hearing these words, Sri Narada became uncontrollably eager to see the lotus feet of Sri Krishna. He simply wanted to go to Dwarka and live there forever. He stood up, sat down, and stood up again. He danced enthusiastically, filled with inner joy, and he made loud cries. Hanuman's heart was immersed in transcendental tastes from speaking about the Pandavas. Hanuman is so happy just speaking about other devotees. This is humility. With his ecstasy raised even higher by Narada's dancing, he continued to speak about the topic. Sri Hanuman said, all the calamities that befell the Pandavas were most auspicious and desirable, because those calamities made the personality of Godhead anxious to join the Pandavas quickly. Just think, when the Pandavas were in danger, the Lord was anxious and worried. He wanted to rush to them. When we are in danger, the Lord is anxious and worried for us, I promise. And it makes him rush to us quicker. If only we just keep calling out to him. If not, then the Lord says, I am reciprocal. Reciprocal means what I give, what I get, I give. How I am approached, I give. If we don't approach Krishna, then that means we are telling him, stay away, I'll handle it. And then Krishna can't run to our aid. Do not block your blessings by thinking, oh, I won't pray anymore. I give up. Do not block your blessings. Because whenever we are in danger, Krishna is anxious and worried for us, with a quickly beating heart thinking, oh, my devotee, oh, my friend, my dearest one is in trouble. But I'm reciprocal, and until and unless they ask me to, I will follow their order. So if we don't pray, then we are ordering Krishna, stay away, I've got it. He says, I now follow the order of my friend. Hanuman even said, the Lord becomes servant of his devotee, and his devotee becomes a servant of him, and it's a never-ending cycle of reciprocation of love, where the Lord says, I'll do anything for you, and the devotee says, I'll do anything for you, and thus they do anything for each other. We can't block our blessings by thinking, I won't pray. By thinking, pure devotees don't pray for this, so I won't pray. Even if we think pure devotees don't pray for anything, are we pure? Because if not, then we shouldn't falsely accept that dress. We can't falsely put on that chadar, right? That wonderful robe of saying, you know what? I don't care about this body. I'm just gonna rise above it all. The Pandavas prayed for their health, their wealth, their lives. So what is wrong in that? If we have the mentality, oh Krishna, you gave me this life. This life, this body, this birth is your mercy. I use it to serve you. It is like your very own necklace. So you please preserve this necklace of life. You please preserve your own property. I am your property. You please help me. You preserve my life. You help me and my family, please. Those are the prayers that Krishna longs to hear. So don't block your blessings by thinking, nobody prays to Krishna for protection. He's just going to give it. He will. But we have to think of what message are we sending to Krishna, because he is very much reciprocal. When Hanuman and Sri Ram first met, Hanuman came in disguise and he did not recognize Sri Ram until Sri Ram said, Hanuman. And he said, oh Ram, I've heard your name, but I've worshipped you my whole life. How was it that I couldn't recognize you? Sri Ram said, I'm reciprocal. You came to me in disguise with a different identity. And so you saw me that way in disguise with a different identity. It's not until we take off all of those other external cloaks that we wear and we remember, I am just surrendered in love to my Lord, that we can recognize him again as our dearest friend, as our greatest well-wisher. And we should be remembering this. So pray. Pray for that protection. Speak to Krishna. Pray even if you're angry. Pray in grief. Pray in sorrow. Pray in excitement. Even if you find yourself in distress, anxiety, worry, keep praying. Tell Krishna all about it. Because that makes him rush to our sides. I was just waiting for you to send me a message. Until then, I couldn't do anything. Because I am yours. Krishna says I am yours. And unless and until you ask me, I will do whatever you want, because that is love. So do we want him to come and save us? Then we must cry from the core of our hearts, oh my Govinda, oh my Lord, please come save us. Hanuman says, O Pandavas, pure love has subdued you. Ignoring discrimination and etiquette, you engage my Lord as messenger and charioteer. You Pandavas must know some transcendental herb or mantra that can enchant the most powerful enchanter. Because the Pandavas are under the sway of prema, they can be excused for transgressing reason and etiquette. But why does the personality of Godhead agree to be dealt with so lightly by the Pandavas? Hanuman surmises that the brothers must know some magic that can hypnotize the Lord. Krishna is the supreme magician, the enchanter of everyone else, so whatever can enchant him must be extraordinary. No such magic herb or mantra is to be found anywhere in this world. Hanuman will tell the identity of this magic. After Hanuman said this, he repeatedly jumped up into the air higher and higher, joining the sage Narada in dancing. He then continued to speak. O master of all masters, you are conquered by your great affection for your devotees. This is how you attract their hearts. Now Hanuman addresses Lord Krishna. You are the Lord of all lords of the universe, but you become a chariot driver and order carrier for the Pandavas. This is certainly possible because your love for your devotees makes you its slave. I'll read that one again. You are the Lord of all lords of the universe, but you become a chariot driver and order carrier for the Pandavas. Why? This is certainly possible because your love for your devotees makes you its slave. Your love for your devotees makes you its slave. Krishna is a slave for love. Someone is contesting the word Jayanti. Jayanti, the Sanskrit version, is not simply about Jayant, one who has taken like birth or death. Jayanti actually also means glorious. All glories to, giving glory to and honor to the personality. So in this regard, it is actually always said Hanuman Jayanti. It is also said Balaram Jayanti. It is the day that we give glories to that personality. So please don't think that Jayanti means anything according to birth and death. It actually has nothing to do with that, and everything to do with giving glory to that honorable personality on that day. I've gotten that question a lot. Every year I say Happy Hanuman Jayanti, and every year someone says, oh, it can't be Jayanti because that's for people. It's not. The Sanskrit word Jayanti is to give glory to. So like glory and good fortune and all wonderful glorification. So this day is used for giving all glories and glorification to Sri Hanuman. So it is a very happy Hanuman Jayanti, a day of glorious telling of the words and the pastimes and the glorification of Sri Hanuman, the great devotee and the benefactor of all of us other devotees. So, now Hanuman addresses Krishna. You are conquered by your great affection for your devotees, right? Krishna is a slave for love. Having lost your independence, you are forced to do whatever your devotees want. This is why I say keep praying. You are forced to do whatever your devotees want. This is why Krishna says, O Arjuna, declare it boldly that my devotee never perishes. Because he says, I'm forced to do whatever my devotees want. So if you say my devotee is never vanquished, then I'm forced to uphold that vow. So we must keep praying. Krishna says, I am completely under the control of my devotees. Indeed, I am not at all independent. Because my devotees are completely devoid of material desires, I sit only within the core of their hearts. What to speak of my devotees? Even the devotees of my devotees are very dear to me. This is from Bhagavatam, 9th canto, and therefore it is always advised that people become devotees of great devotees like Hanuman. Because even dearer than his own devotees are the devotees of his devotees. So Lord Sri Krishna says himself, what to speak of my devotees? Even the devotees of my devotees are very dear to me. So now you see people, they worship Hanuman. And it is advised, worship Hanuman. Worship all the demigods. Please give them all obeisance. Give them all respect. Give them all praise. You know why? Because they are great devotees of my Krishna. And the one surefire way to catch the attention of my Krishna is to make his devotees happy. It's like if you have a child and there's somebody you don't know well. But if they are so nice to your child and they give your child gifts and drawings and pictures and they do everything nice for your child, all of a sudden it kind of doesn't matter what they've said to you. You're like, never mind, I'll overlook it. Because they're just so nice to the child. This is Krishna's position. Right? He says, but that person is so dear to my devotee. And he's even shown kindness to demons because they have been devotees of Lord Shiva and others. And so he's had to wait for an opportune moment to chastise certain devotees because they were so engaged in worshiping his Krishna's own devotees. So this is the magic that the Pandavas have. Love. They love him. Hanuman says, it is my greatest fortune that Pritha's middle son, Bhimasen, is also my dear younger brother. Lord Krishna, by acts of friendship, like giving his sister in marriage to the Pandava Arjuna, showed Arjuna full mercy, and that Arjuna bears my image on the treasured flag of his chariot. Maruti Dwaja. Kapidwaj. Arjuna is known as Kapidwaj. He bears the flag of Hanuman. Without the unconditional mercy of the Lord's most beloved friends, a devotee's loving service can never succeed or bear fruit. One more time. Without the unconditional mercy of the Lord's most beloved friends, a devotee's loving service can never succeed or bear fruit. So we help each other. We can help each other by giving our gratitude. What mercy do we think we have? But we can show mercy just by praying for one another, by being kind to one another, by being sweet to one another, by uplifting one another, by even reading to one another. Even if we think, I don't have any realizations of my own, there are books and books full of them. Even if we just read them, we don't even have to add anything. It's all there. So this is the mercy that we can give as Krishna's friends, and as friends of Krishna's friends, and as friends of Krishna's friends. Therefore, O best of Vaishnavas, most dear devotee of the Lord, let us go together to see the Pandavas and take shelter of them. Never in Ayodhya did the Lord disclose what he now reveals in the district of Mathura known as Dwarka. Countless varieties of supreme opulence and sweetness, one after another, which Brahma, Rudra, and other demigods can hardly fathom. These glories expand the love of his devotees. Sri Narada said, what are you saying? Something is unseen in Ayodhya? It is not even seen in Vaikuntha? Get up, my dear friend, get up. We should go there at once. Hanuman, the ocean of sobriety, then sighed for a moment, and after a brief time in thought, he bowed down to Narada and spoke. Sri Hanuman said, certainly it would be fitting for us to visit Dwarka to see the Pandavas and offer them service, for they are in all respects most dear to the personality of Godhead and his consort. But the Lord is now displaying uncommonly intense mercy and sweetness, more confidential than anything he has ever shown before. Those wonderful playful pastimes are so supremely enchanting that they bewilder even self-realized sages. Just see how even your father Brahma, grandfather of the world, founder Acharya of the Vedic teachings, was confused by the pastimes of Krishna. So what can be said about foolish monkeys like me? Because of how strangely Krishna's pastimes unfold, as you also know, I am afraid I might commit offenses. Oh, Hanuman, he's so sweet. Come on. Hanuman is thinking, if Lord Brahma was bewildered, and he was thinking, who is this Krishna? Let me test him. Hanuman is thinking, what to speak of forest monkeys like me? Let the wonderfully varied pastimes of the Lord be the very life of his servants, who think of nothing but him. For such devotees, those pastimes always increase the ecstasy of love of God. Even so, I simply feel more attracted to the Supreme Lord in his eternal identity as Sri Raghunath, the son of Dashrath, and joy of Mother Kaushalya. His heart always tender with natural, unaffected compassion, he is spontaneously attracted to loving exchanges with his devotees, exchanges free from any tinge of duplicity. He demonstrates how to follow properly the religious duties of a civilized people, and he upholds the strict vow of having only one wife. In the shyness of innate humility, his face always looks downward, his eyes fixed on the ground. His exalted character is pleasing to all. He stands with bow in hand, the king of kings, the hero of the city of Ayodhya, served by Sita and Lakshman, and with Bharat as his older brother. He rules the race of monkeys as the dear friend of Sugriva, and he gives shelter to Vibhishan. By my hearing of the pastimes of Krishna, the unlimited loving attraction I feel toward my own master has increased. Oh, Hanuman says, hearing about Krishna just makes me love Lord Ram even more. Therefore, I think I shall stay here, constantly seeing him in this form, and drinking the immortal nectar of his pastimes. And when the Lord may sometimes call me for some purpose, by his great mercy, he might allow me the transcendental happiness of serving him. Or, inspired by affection for me, the Lord may call me just to show me the beautiful form I love more than my own life. In the commentary, Sanatana Goswami speaks that there is a particular pastime which we all love and which we will recite now. Once, to curb the pride of the very carriers and the order carriers of Lord Shri Krishna, Sudarshan and Garuda, Lord Shri Krishna said to Garuda, "O Garuda, please call the great Lord of the monkeys, Hanuman. Please call him here to see me." Garuda thought, "I'm the fastest living entity that there ever was. No problem." And so Garuda travels to the same area, right? He travels to Kimpurusha. And he travels and he sees Hanuman. Hanuman is engaged in chanting the glories of Sri Rama. Ram, 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 Sita Ram. Ram, 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 Sita Ram. And Garuda calls, "Hey Hanuman." Hanuman is so engaged in singing that he doesn't even look. "Hey Hanuman. Hey monkey." And Garuda thinks somebody's calling me. And at one point, Garuda thinks to somehow shake Hanuman out of his reverie. But even just with like the touch of the tail of Hanuman, Garuda goes flying. And so he comes back. He says, Oh monkey." Hanuman says, "Yes, you were calling me." He says, "Krishna is calling you." He says, "Okay." But he doesn't move. Garuda says, "Hey Hanuman, what's the matter with you? Krishna's calling you." He says, "I don't know this Krishna, but I'll come when I can. Maybe after I've finished my puja." Garuda goes back to Krishna. Krishna says, "What happened?" He said, "This Hanuman, he's foolish and wayward. He won't come." Krishna says, "What did you tell him?" He says, "I told him Krishna was calling." He says, "Garuda, tell him his Sri Ram is calling." And Garuda says, "Okay." He goes back. Within a moment, there he is with Hanuman. He says, "Hey monkey, Sri Ram is calling you." This time he didn't even have to worry about breaking Hanuman out of his reverie. Hanuman immediately opened his eyes. "Oh, my Raghunath. My Raghunath is calling where? Just tell me where." He says, "He's in Dwarka, no problem." He says, "Why don't you jump on my back and let me bring you?" Hanuman says, "I have my own methods of getting there." "Oh, bird, you just fly. I'll meet you." And Garuda says, "Are you sure? Because I'm the fastest being in all creation. I can get you there quickly. And as we know, when the Lord calls, you should rush to that place immediately, never hesitating in service." Hanuman says, "I'm fine. I can go." And in some cases they say that Garuda once again tries to lift the tail of Hanuman, and Hanuman flicks him with his tail, and Garuda goes flying all the way back to the feet of Lord Shri Krishna. When he arrives at the feet of Lord Shri Krishna, Hanuman is already there. So faster than anything is Hanuman. Hanuman is already there. In the blink of an eye, he's there. Head bowed. "Oh, my Lord, what can I do for you?" Krishna says, "How did you enter my city of Dwarka?" Hanuman says, "I entered. Just. I entered." He says, "But wasn't there someone guarding?" Shri Krishna says, "I personally put fortress fields and force fields and protection shields and all that. Wasn't there someone guarding?" And I said, "Oh, I came in through one western gate and there was," 1 second. He reaches in his mouth and pulls out from between his teeth, Sudarshan. You mean this? He was guarding. He tried to stop me, but I said, my Ram is calling. He said, no, you can't go, you monkey. You must first appease me. I am the guardian of the gates of Dwarka. So I thought, it's like a little mosquito. He was bothering me. I didn't want to also cause any harm. Better, I thought, I'd put him in my mouth. Your own signet ring, Sri Ram, was in my mouth. Better, I put this personality in my mouth, and then I'll bring him to you, no problem. Shri Krishna looked at Sudarshan and Garuda, who were now quite humbled by this wonderful pastime and the activities of Hanumanji. And Shri Krishna smiled. Now do you understand what devotion is? They understood this devotion, and Hanuman was ready to do anything and everything, but he did not even think. He was afraid. He says, oh Narada, I won't go. What if I commit offenses? Krishna is very crafty. His pastimes are very confusing for a monkey. His pastimes are wondrous and mysterious. What if I commit offenses to those great devotees? Better I stay here. This is Hanuman's humility, his sweetness. He can do anything. Greatest devotee, but he doesn't want to commit offenses to other devotees. He just wants to be nice and praise them and bless them. And therefore he tells Arjuna, I will reside on your flag during the war and I will give you strength. He couldn't fight. It would have been against the rules. So he couldn't fight. But what he does is on the flag of Arjuna, he roars and he often scares and strikes fear into the heart of the opposing armies who come to fight with Arjuna, so that they lose all of their heart. They don't know which way to shoot their arrows. He confuses them with his battle cries from the flag. He is not just stationary. He moves, he roars, he beats his chest. And some even say he has fire spitting, he's valiant. So he fights in his own way, even from the flag of the chariot of Arjuna. So he says, inspired by affection for me, the Lord may call me just to show me the beautiful form I love more than my own life. When Hanuman arrived there, he looked, and he was confused because Krishna looked different. Sri Ram was a beautiful deep green. Sri Krishna is a sapphire blue, almost dark as night. What is this? Peacock feathers, and he looks like a prince, but a little different. And then, before his very own eyes, Sri Krishna manifests the form of Sri Ram holding bow and arrow. Beloved consort with him. Lakshman there, no problem. Sri Hanuman says, sometimes he grants me the vision of the form that I love more than my very own life. So he tells Narada, you go speak to those Pandavas. I must be ready to present myself before him without delay whenever he might call. But now you, please go visit the Pandavas at their home and see the supreme absolute truth in his appearance like a human being. Lord Krishna is fully satisfied in himself. Even great sages cannot perceive him in their hearts or describe him with their words. He is the supreme enchanter because his wonderful pastimes are the source of endless attraction. Please do not let your intelligence become shrouded by the offensive idea that you and I are staunch brahmacharis or celibates, and the Pandavas are householders, merely distracted by political affairs. He says, don't think that they're ordinary. Don't think that we are above them. Don't think that there's a hierarchy within the devotees. They are the dearest friends of Sri Krishna, and therefore they are above all caste, all ashram. They are above everything. Those Pandavas never desire anything material because they constantly serve Lord Krishna's lotus feet. And indeed, their own lotus feet are worshipped by the spiritual masters of the Paramahamsas. The eldest of these brothers rules the state out of love for the personality of Godhead. So he's like, Yudhishthira is ruling as a devotional service to Krishna. Thus his kingdom is rich in all sorts of assets, rarely enjoyed by the demigods. By sacrifices like the Rajasuya and Ashvamedha, he has earned pious credits great enough for attaining the world of Lord Vishnu, And while still in this world, he rules the entire sphere of Jambudvip, the whole earth. His pure fame is known throughout the three worlds. His faultless possessions evoke the envy of the gods. The king achieved all this opulence only by Krishna's mercy, and he has offered it all back to Krishna. It never had any power to please him. Since his heart always burns in the fire of love for Krishna, those garlands, fine garments, and sandalwood pulp attract him no more than they would attract a man afflicted by the fire of hunger. So Sanatana Goswami says, if somebody's hungry and you give them a silk cloth, they're like, but I'm hungry, that's not going to feed me, right? So he's saying he's not attracted because he has that hunger of devotional service. That's all he wants. Just see, his superlative queen is none other than Srimati Draupadi, and his brothers are such men as the blessed Bhimasen and Arjuna. They are dear to him not because of bodily ties, or because they help him reach the four goals of material life, but they are dear because of their loving bond with the lotus feet of Sri Krishna. So we can see how our family members become dear to us because of our bond of service, because of our bond of prayer and love for God. And we can see that anyway. Sometimes we might think that as devotees, we go to the temple, we take initiation, we do this, we follow this, we do this, we do this, we do this. And then sometimes we have family members who may not be able to do all that, but they love God. We should be able to see that love for God as a tie that can bind us happily. We should be able to see that as a starting point, no problem. We can relish that bond without saying to them, oh, you're on the wrong path. Oh, you should do more. You should be like me. You should do this. We should be able to see above those differences. Hanuman can see above the differences. He's a monkey. They're humans. He's saying, I'm a brahmachari. They are householders, right, with families. Society might say, oh, celibate monks are more advanced. Hanuman is saying, they are more advanced than me. Over above them being Kshatriyas and me being a monkey. Above all castes. Right? Above Narada being a great Brahman and them being Kshatriyas. Above all castes and ashrams, varnas, anything. He says, is this tie of devotion. Hanuman can see over and above all that. He can even see our ways of devotion might be different. And so he says, no problem. What I do see is that we both love God. And God loves us. And so I consider them so worshipable. So we can see our family members that way. We can see our friends that way. After all, Krishna sees everyone that way. He is willing to meet everyone where they are. He is willing to understand that devotional service is a process. He's willing to understand that not everyone is perfected. He's willing to understand that there's not one way of perfection. There are many paths of perfection. But the ultimate path of perfection is surrender and love. However, that surrender and love manifests itself. So if Krishna can see over and above all of that, and he's able to make a place where everyone doesn't matter, he's able to say, the name of the religion does not matter. All that matters is your surrender and your love. However you surrender and lovingly call out to me, in whatever name, in whatever language, I will come. If Krishna can see that, then surely we must be able to see that with our families. And we can love them. So sometimes, the more we advance in Krishna consciousness and in bhakti yoga, in devotion, the more we think, but you're not doing it right. But I'm doing it right. But I'm taking up, so much trouble to do it right. If we think of our devotion as, I'm taking on all this hardship to do this devotion right, it will turn us bitter. We won't be able to see that others are advancing in their own way because we've been made bitter. But if we look at everything that we take up as an act of love. If we look at days in which we fast, not as, oh God, I'm fasting, I have to go without food. But if we look at the days where we fast and we think, I'm so caught up in hearing the glories of Hanuman, the glories of Raghunandan Sri Ram, the glories of Krishna, that I forget about food. I'm so filled up with nectar of the pastimes of Krishna that I don't think about food. It changes. We are no longer bitter. We are happy to perform austerity. It's not even austerity then. We just forget. It's like being in love for the first time. We'll stay up late talking on the phone. We'll stay up late to call our beloved. We'll forget to eat lunch thinking about our loved one. We will write pages and pages of poetry and letters to them. We can be in love with Krishna just like this. And then our hearts won't be bitter. We won't think, I've done all this. You should do all this and more. You have to do this because I've done it. And my way, my process in bhakti was not easy. So your process shouldn't be easy either. Have we ever seen this? We find leaders who, or even teachers, who sometimes make the way difficult because the way was difficult for them. But it doesn't have to be. If we take this up in a mood of love, then we are yearning to make the way easy for ourselves and everyone. Hanuman is yearning to do this. Hanuman is saying, oh Narada, let's make the way easy. Let's just worship these Pandavas and worship our Lord and think of him in love. But don't think that because I am in one body and they are in another body, I belong to one caste, they belong to one section, I belong to this section, that there's some difference. They love my Lord, and that is all that matters. So whether a person calls the Lord Jehovah, whether another person calls the Lord Allah, whether they call the Lord Khuda, whether they call the Lord Govinda, whether they call the Lord Sri Raghunandan Ram, whether they just say, oh my Lord, I hope and pray that we can see the love behind it. And that as friends of our dearest Lord, we can inspire and motivate that love in others. That becomes our job. That becomes our task. Just to try and inspire and motivate that love. To inspire and motivate that determination. Whether we have realizations of our own or we just think, I can pray for you. I don't know, I don't have the answers, but I can pray. That is all that is necessary. In fact, that is the greatest gift. If we take that time to pray for others, it is the greatest gift. So Hanuman says they are dear to him, not because of bodily ties or because they help him reach the 4 goals of material life, but because of their loving bond with the lotus feet of Sri Krishna. They are bound in loving devotional service. Hanuman says, but what can a forest monkey like me say about the Pandavas? Your lordship, O Narada, already knows much more than I about their glories. And with that, Narada travels to the kingdom of the Pandavas. And for that, you'll have to stay tuned. After our Mahabharat series, which I'll try and wrap up real soon, we will be going through this wonderful Brihad Bhagavatamrita and all of the glorious pastimes and lessons that are within this Brihad Bhagavatamrita. There are great teachers who have dedicated their lives just to reading and rereading this Brihad Bhagavatamrita because it is the essence of nectar. It has everything, as we have seen, even Hanuman. It has everything, everyone, all key players are there. I can't wait to go through it all with you. My respectful obeisances and all glories to Sri Pavanasuta Hanuman, the great devotee of Sri Rama, and the well-wisher of us all. I pray that in this time, remembrance of him gives us determination, courage, fortitude, strength, and hopeful hearts. As I said, He's expert at finding lost things. If our hope is lost, may Hanuman retrieve it and reunite it with Sri Krishna. If our faith is lost, I pray that Sri Hanuman will find it, retrieve it, and reunite it with Sri Krishna. If our trust is lost, I pray that Sri Hanuman will find it, retrieve it, and reunite it with our dearest Lord. And I hope that he gifts us with what he has. Love for our divine, most supreme person. So thank you so much for being with me. We'll be back Wednesday, hopefully, to engage more with our Mahabharat Katha. We have to find out what happens with Jarasandha. Krishna is about to extend his mastermind plan to deal with Jarasandha. And to help Yudhishthira Maharaj, once again, who wants to perform a Rajasuya Yagya, not because he wants to be famous as emperor of the world, but he wants to perform a Rajasuya sacrifice just to please Krishna. He says, if I perform this Rajasuya Yagya, all the Devtas must come. All the kings of the world must come, and there I will honor you. There I will show them all my devotion for you. So Yudhishthira Maharaj, we can follow in those footsteps. And we can tell Krishna, whatever you give me, wealth, family, life, love, let me somehow use it to glorify you, to show everyone, look how great my Krishna is. Look at the miracles he's performed in my life. Look how great my Govinda is. Right now, luckily I'm healthy. I mean, I have allergies and asthma and stuff, but as far as the virus is concerned, luckily I'm healthy. And I know that there's no amount of putting on a mask or staying indoors that can save me if I'm supposed to have it. But today, the mercy, the miracle of my Govinda is that I'm healthy enough to come on screen and speak with all of you. That's a miracle. And not just because I'm healthy, but because he gave me another opportunity, another day to speak about him. So all of you who have been here, all of you who have had the opportunity to pray today, you're all very fortunate. Because we remembered Krishna, somehow or other, even if it is in distress. This is a miracle. We remembered him. And we came on here to encourage others to remember him. So I absolutely will save this live. I'll be posting it as soon as it's done, both on Facebook and on Instagram. Thank you for being here. Please come back. Same time on Wednesday. We'll be around. We'll sing a little bit of kirtan at the beginning. Then we'll get into the adventures of Sri Krishna. And we will pray that it continues to help all of us. These pastimes, they can heal the world because they heal our hearts. And I pray so much that the world gets encircled with faith and the mercy and the miracles of Sri Krishna. Because we need it. Shri Krishna Chandra Bhagavan ki jai, Siyavar Ramachandra ki jai, Pavan Suta Hanuman ki jai, Shri Vrindavan Dham ki jai. All glories to all our friends. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. I'll see you all again soon. Thank you again. Hare Krishna. Shri Radhe Govinda ki jai.